Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and a little, and yours truly, Rick Trader. And we're coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network and simulcast on radio stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Nevada, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Boulder, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Milwaukee, Long Beach, California. Indeed, we are everywhere. We are everywhere. And a little, we have our first guest with us, and will you please make that introduction?
I would be happy to do so, Producer Rick Trader, but I believe this gentleman needs no introduction. This is the one and only Judge Roy Moore, running for U.S. Senate in the state of Alabama. I know his name is well known. This is a people's candidate. This is a conservative movement candidate. And of course, he's got the establishment stacking the deck against him. And we're so very happy to be in support of Judge Roy Moore for Senate. Judge Roy Moore, thank you for joining Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be with you.
Well, we're excited about your candidacy. Can you tell us what are the top issues facing the people of Alabama today?
Well, the top issue in this case, are we going to allow the federal government in Washington, D.C., the establishment, the Washington elitists, to control our vote by the infusion of some say $30 million, MSNBC reported that this morning, into our state with negative and false ads to buy the vote of the people in this important senatorial race.
Well, I certainly hope the answer to that question is no, because it's the people that are to be in charge. And Judge Roy Moore, tell us, how is it that the people of Alabama are working to make sure that you get into the U.S. Senate?
Well, we're having an outpouring of support all across Alabama. They have indicated that they don't believe the ads, which they shouldn't because they're false. They're stating that they're going to vote for me, and we expect that to be true. Washington establishment has done everything they know to do with constant ads running day and night on every station, and they're still losing in the polls.
Well, thank goodness for that, because, you know, it's the people of Alabama's voice that counts. You're to represent the people of Alabama. And I think these establishment politicians, they don't live in Alabama, and they ought not to be dictating to the people of Alabama. And I know you agree with me on that. So what do you believe is your job going to be when you arrive in the U.S. Senate? What are the major issues the people of Alabama want you to address the minute you're in office?
The people of Alabama want me to address the immigration issue. They want Obamacare repealed. They want a strong military. They're very interested and concerned about the situation in Korea, North Korea. They want us to reinstitute the free enterprise system. They'd like to see regulations cut, taxes cut, and basically industry brought back into this country.
Well, that all sounds like stuff that people in our listening population would agree with, and that's why we're in such support of your candidacy for U.S. Senate. But Judge Roy Moore, you're not inexperienced in dealing with a lot of these issues. You're not a politician, obviously. You've been a judge, but you are certainly well equipped to handle these. Can you talk to us a little bit about your background and why you'd be so efficient once you arrived at the U.S. Senate?
Well, I think to understand any issue, and I answered this the other day in court, or not in court, but to one of the reporters, to understand this issue, or how to get on with these issues, you've got to understand there's a constitutional framework in which to place these issues. If you don't understand that, then you don't know how to address the issues. For example, let's take the DACA program. That's a big thing. You know, DACA was begun with a memo out of the Janet Napolitano out of Homeland Security to defer action on what Congress had legislated. It was against the law. Congress should have done something to Janet Napolitano. They should have acted immediately when an agency of the government refuses to enforce the law. And they've got very many ways to do that. But they did nothing. Now we've got a problem. They had tried to pass the DREAM Act. Obama had tried to pass the Development, Relief, and Education of Alien Minors Act, and he failed on several occasions. Then he just allowed Janet Napolitano to issue a memo to say we're not going to follow the law. And Congress did nothing. When I get to Congress, when I get to the Senate, I will not sit silently while an agency disputes the law made by Congress.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you say that, Judge, because we believe here at Conservative Commandos Radio Show that we, the people, are in charge of this government and that we are to direct our government. And we need representatives to stay in line with we, the people, and to bring the voice of we, the people, to government. And it sounds to me like that's what you intend to do. Now, you are in a terrific battle, and you're in the last stages of that. Your election is Tuesday, September the 26th. And today is Friday, the 21st. So we've got about 5 days, well, really 4 days plus a little, to get you elected. And I know that they have dumped money last minute into this race to try to push your opponent over the edge. I'm not even going to say the name because we're all for Judge Roy Moore here. What is it that our listeners can do from all around the country to help you get into the U.S. Senate and represent the voice of the people in Alabama? What can we do in solidarity with the people of Alabama to make sure that their choice gets elected?
Well, I would say go to the website that we have, roymore.org. It will send you to the proper website where people can contribute if they wish and can find out what we stand for. And I think that's the most important thing that we can do is get our message out. And it does take money. It does take funding. Opposing the amount of money we're facing out of Washington to keep a stagnancy going is just simply wrong. We need to do something.
Yep, and we certainly cannot, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that you have a terrific ground game underway as well. Talk to us about what you're all doing on the ground to make sure the people of Alabama turn out to vote.
Well, we're having rallies. For example, we have one Monday with Phil Robertson. Is going to be at a rally in Robertsdale. We've got... We just had a debate last night. We're going to have another rally in Washington County on Saturday. That's 2 large rallies prior to the vote. We've got ads going out. We've got mailers going out. We've got calls. We're doing just a lot, quite frankly.
So, Judge, tell me, what is it that brought you into public service in the first place? I know that you have a very comfortable home. You have a lovely family. You had plenty to do.
Business can't operate freely under a lot of EPA regulations. That's just another way to encumber the business situation here. We need to go back where Made in America means something, and I think we need to make things and bring the industry back from overseas.
Well, here at Conservative Commandos Radio Show, we couldn't agree more with Judge Roy Moore on what he's been saying about the economy. Now, you live in Alabama. Alabama was affected by these recent hurricanes, and of course, FEMA likes to jump in at every turn. Talk to us a little bit about increasing the debt in order to help out with hurricane relief.
Well, when you talk about the debt ceiling is critical in our country. We started out in 1962 with a third of $1 trillion in debt. Today it's over 20. People don't understand how to think in trillions, millions, and so forth. Let me give you this. $1 trillion is a million times. That means that every dollar you have, if you had $1 million, which I don't have to have, but if you had $1 million and you took every $1 bill and you made that $1 million, and the next one $2 million, then $3 million, then $4 million, $5 million. By the time you had $10 bills, you'd have $10 million. Imagine how many million you'd have if you had 1,000. Now, imagine how many million you'd have if you had $1 million. It's just beyond our understanding, that limit of money, and yet we're over $20 trillion in debt. That is a terrible comment on our society. People seem to think there are no consequences to such huge indebtedness. But if you look at Argentina and Greece and other countries, they've gone bankrupt, basically. And they buy things. Other countries won't deal with them. And when you have debt that's being bought up, like treasury bonds bought by China and others, you have a problem with indebtedness. And if you had a credit card and you could increase your credit limit every time the bill became due, and soon you learned you wouldn't make any payments, just increase your credit limit, and they wouldn't ask you for your money. Then you learned that you come to a point where you have to spend a fifth of your economy, all the spending you do during the year, just to pay the interest. You would see that you would eventually fail because you just couldn't pay a fifth of your entire expenditures just toward interest.
Well, you're on the ground. Yeah, you're on the ground there with government spending and debt increase over these hurricanes. And what we're hearing out here in the West is that 80% of the costs that have been incurred in the relief that's being offered is really being supplied by faith-based groups, not the government. And our own Anna Little has had some experience with government relief, and it's almost no thanks because of the strings attached with regulation that you mentioned before. There's an elephant in the room here that I want to just briefly speak of, and there's two, actually. The first is the establishment. We're talking about a primary here, aren't we, Judge Moore? These are establishment Republicans that are coming against you. And secondly, how is voter integrity in Alabama? Should we be concerned that this election may not go the way it's supposed to go?
Well, we're watching very carefully the voter integrity. And I go back to the issue on the ceiling of indebtedness. I was simply making the point that by 2047, we won't even be able to pay the interest except we spend 1/5 of our economy. And that's a serious problem. So I think that we've got to understand that, and we've got to look at the fact that recently, this is very interesting. When they proposed to raise the debt ceiling because of Irma and Harvey, one senator, Rand Paul, offered an amendment called Amendment First, America First. And in that he said, well, let's just take some of the money of the $57 billion we set aside for foreign aid, just take 15.25, even though that shouldn't be like that. I understand that. But the Congress voted it down. They won't even cut the foreign aid to lower the debt ceiling. And that's a problem. And I understand what you're talking about people, the federal government trying to send us relief, and it's not going anywhere. But our Congress has no regard for the debt ceiling. When you take money and just let it be sent to foreign nationals at the urging of the president, we've got a problem. There's nothing in the Constitution that says foreign countries can get our tax money. We don't have foreign aid. I mean, we've always thought aid itself was a bad thing. But to get it to foreign countries, I don't see any authority for that. And yet
I don't see any either, Judge Roy Moore. We've got about 1 minute left. Would you just explain to our folks out here in Conservative Commando Radio listening audience how they can help you, where they can go to find out more information? Any last words that you have about your establishment candidate who is a Republican? This is a Republican primary, and it's one of those things where we've seen that sometimes the guys on our side aren't really on our side. So talk to us a little bit about how we can help you.
Well, people can go to roymoore.org, look up our website, and see where they can contribute money and what we stand for. And it is true that the Washington establishment is trying to control this race with up to MSNBC's at $30 million. And I don't know where all that money comes from, but it's outside. And if we let this go, they'll do it in other states. If we stop it, we will change the political system in a very meaningful way. And I appreciate your support and look forward to the 26th in which people vote.
That's this coming Tuesday in Alabama, and we are in support of Judge Roy Moore for U.S. Senate against the establishment candidate. Absolutely a do-nothing Congress on both the Senate and the House of Representatives side. Again, give us your website one more time, Judge Moore.
RoyMoore.org.
RoyMoore.org, RoyMoore.org. He can use your help. It's time. We helped get elected people from the grassroots who really do understand government and the way the government should go. Thank you so much for being our guest here today, Judge Roy Moore.
Thank you, Sharon. Bye-bye.
And we are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios. That's where we're coming from. And around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, KRLN Radio, iHeartRadio, Talk America Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. We are coming to you today with Rick Trader, our producer, Anna Little, and yours truly, Sharon Angle. We'll be right back after these messages with our next guest.